So 4 years ago today, on 17 December 2017, Bitcoin put in an all-time high of the entire bull run, and after that it started a bear market. Altcoins peaked a few weeks after that, back in 2017, and then we had the brutal bear market from 2018 to about the end of 2019 before things started picking back up again. So since this cycle is clearly different at this point, in this video I want to look at some charts, I want to look at some possibilities, and I want to share my thoughts on what could lie ahead for the next weeks and months. What's up guys, Dirk here from IntelligentCryptocurrency.com. If you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell. That way you do get future updates. If you'd like me to send you an email every time I upload a video or there's important announcements, get on my email list. It's 100% free. The first link in the description down below. So real quick, before we get into today's content, I just want to let you know I have reopened the Black Friday special offer for the next 2 weeks for anyone who is interested. It is the second link in the description down below. No, it is not the full VIP Intelligent Cryptocurrency membership. That is still closed until next year sometime. If you are already a member, obviously you get access to everything that is in the Black Friday special offer. But for those of you who do want education, we've got a Navigate the Crypto Bullrun training webinar series. We've got a full beginner's course. We've got all the past Intelligent Cryptocurrency newsletters from 2021 and 3 months worth of future updates, newsletters, and video updates. If you want to get access to it, second link in the description down below, just $297 with a 14-day money-back guarantee. Okay, so 4 years ago to the day, 17 December 2017, that was the exact peak of the Bitcoin bull run after a big parabolic move up. And then we had altcoins peak 2 to 3 weeks later, and then we started that big bear market from 2018 with a huge 86% decline on Bitcoin, 90 and 99% on altcoins, this terrible bear market that probably many of us watching right now actually experienced. And that was a terrible experience if you ended up buying near the peak of 2017, which many of us did simply because that is when we all started to get introduced to crypto in kind of a mainstream way. Crypto obviously was around for many, many more years, but only around middle of 2017, towards Q3 and even Q4, towards the end, that is when it started picking up excitement because it's done something that basically we didn't know was possible. Yeah, there was the bull run in 2013 with Bitcoin, but back then everyone still considered it basically just like a joke or like a nerdy coin or a scam. And even in 2017, that was still largely the case. But once it started going higher and it started going past the 2013 high, and we started going to 5,000 and 10,000 and then 14,000, 15,000, and then just started getting a ton of attention. The altcoins were exploding back then. There were ICOs, everything was going crazy. So naturally, a lot of people wanted to get into this saying, hey, crypto and digital assets, it's a new thing. It's going to go up forever. And yes, it was a new asset class, but then we got this brutal bear market. And a lot of people got really wrecked from over leveraging, overextending, and basically not expecting this huge bear market. Obviously, myself included, I did not expect it to drop that much for altcoins for such an extended period of time. But those of us that stayed committed to the space, that kept on learning, that believed in it, that saw the potential in it, and obviously that held good projects, we got through all of that, right? If you kept on holding, and sure, it was a long period, but after 3 years, Bitcoin got back to the all-time high. You can see over here, pretty much in December last year. So pretty much 3 years to the day, got back to that all-time high, and then we had a huge run going forward. Same with Ethereum. Okay, Ethereum dropped 90% or more than 90% from its high in early 2018, dropped to about $80, and then it went on a huge run. So even if you had ridden that all the way down, even if you had bought Ethereum at the very top at $1,400, you know, currently it's still about $4,000. So even if you had bought the very top and just held on, you would still be up almost 3x your investment, almost 4x your investment. So again, that just shows that having a long-term perspective for this market that is a growing asset class, that is a new technology, that has a network effect, that is basically moving forward towards the future. Having a long-term vision in this and a long-term investment horizon only tends to work in your favor. Whereas if you have a short-term vision, or you're trying to get rich quick, or you're looking for quick gains, that is probably going to end up hurting you, because if you end up buying towards the top of a specific cycle, or a cycle within a cycle, or a specific hype or a specific mania, well, then you're going to end up buying the top. And you could see 80-90% drawdowns, which obviously isn't very nice. But if you have this long-term vision and you dollar cost average, or you're just patient and you look at historical fear and greed indicators and you tend to buy the fear and you tend to buy when historical indicators are low, well, then it works in your favor. So obviously this cycle is different. We did not have this long parabolic run up towards the top and then have a traditional bear market like we saw pretty much in 2013 and in 2017. What we had so far was a big run up and then a crash in May, a big run up with a slightly higher high and then a pullback. So as you've seen in a previous video where I shared the importance about the 50-week moving average, I think that's an important one to watch. I will link to it up here if you're watching on YouTube or in the description so you can check that out if you haven't watched it yet. But basically, there were only 4 times in the history in the last 7 or 8 years when Bitcoin made a weekly close below the 50-week moving average, that 3 out of 4 times it did end up selling off 50% or more after that point. There was one time when it was a fake out over here, and so far this 50-week moving average has held as support. You can see over here, yes, we had wicks below it, but I mean a weekly close where the body of the candle closes below it for a week. Well, that might be a warning sign in combination with others that we do have further sell-off to go. So before I look at potentials, what I think could lie ahead for the scenario that is unfolding now, let's go and have a look at a log scale of the Bitcoin chart pretty much since inception, how that is lined up and what could lie ahead. Okay, so this is a chart I've shared numerous times over the last month on the channel, and it still continues to remain relevant to see how things are developing. So first of all, let me explain once again, the red lines are the Bitcoin halvings in 2012, in 2016, and in 2020. Okay, then in 2013, we had the cycle peak top over here, approximately 1 year, 12 months after the halving date. And you can see it had a mid-cycle sell-off, which is important to know because we've had that so far in all 3 cycles. Okay, so first of all, statistically, there's not a lot of data. We've only had 2 previous cycles. This is the 3rd one. So nothing here is basically a guarantee that anything's going to happen, but we look at what we have, and based off that, we have multiple scenarios to see how the price develops, and based on that, we can see which scenario it is more likely to follow as it continues to develop. Okay, so the first one was 12 months. Then the second cycle, so the halving to the peak, was about 18 months. It was about 526 days, right? So what we can see here is that the difference between the 2 cycles, this one was about 6 months longer than the first one, even though the halving peaks or the peaks of the cycle were approximately 4 years apart at the end of November and middle December at this point. But because the halving is not based on an exact date, it is based on a block within the Bitcoin blockchain, those can be a little bit different. So because there's a difference in the block times, the halving was a little bit different, which means this cycle was 6 months longer. Now, if we were to say the 4-year cycle is in play, meaning a peak in November or December, well then that would have been now. And the thing is, we haven't had a parabolic run like this that we saw in both previous cycles into this date of end of November or early December. We have not had that at this point. So that makes me think now at this point that it's clear that this 4-year cycle with a parabolic blow off top is clearly not the case. So could that mean that we have a lengthening cycle where it's 6 months longer than this one, and this one could be as much as 6 months longer than the previous cycle, which would take us to a potential blow off top somewhere in May of 2022. And that has always been one of the potential scenarios. So we had the 4-year cycle as a potential scenario with the blow off top now in November or December. That did not happen. So now the next likely scenario, if this bull run cycle is still in play, is that basically each cycle lengthens by as much as 6 months. And that would put us, again, like I said, by about May of 2022. So far, there is still a very similar pattern within these cycles. We had a mid-cycle sell-off in May, as we have seen over here. We had a peak here at the end of the year, but maybe this one is extended a little bit longer. Now, one interesting thing to know also is that we have this seemingly double top pattern. Now, from what I learned in TA and what I've seen many successful technical analysts say and teach, is that double tops do not end a bull run to the upside. Sure, there's a short-term sell-off, and there's basically a rule. What I've learned is that when you see a double top, you sell a double top. When you see a double bottom, you buy a double bottom. That is traditionally what works in equity markets and also with Forex. But that is a temporary thing in the short term, and eventually this should not end a trend or a big macro trend. Big macro trend tends to end with a big exhaustion and massive euphoria to the upside, like we saw in 2013, like we saw in 2017. So again, that would add to the possibility that we still have a big blow off top to come in the next 6 months or so. And if we would see that and we get a big run leading up to somewhere between maybe 200 and 300,000 per Bitcoin within the next 6 months, well, that would complete the potential of a macro top in the bull run cycle, and then we might see another 80 to 90% sell-off in the crypto markets towards the downside of this channel. So basically, it would look something like this, where somewhere in January or February start to move higher, we get a run up towards the top of this channel, and if we hit that somewhere within the next 6 months or so, so pretty much by the end of May or maybe the end of June, well then that would be the cycle top, in my opinion, that we have been looking for, and then we could see a pullback and a grind back down to the bottom. So far, I do not think there's anything to be concerned about, and that the bull run very potentially is still intact, and that we still have the blow off top to go. Now, one thing that I also wanted to show here is a potential scenario that the Bitcoin chart might actually be following. Now, this is the S&P 500. It is obviously the equity index, stock market, and this pattern just looks very, very similar to what might be playing out within the Bitcoin chart. You can see over here, so we had a high, right, 66,000 the first time. We had a sell-off, then we had a run-up with a slightly higher high, exactly what happened here. So you could basically call that a double top scenario. And this basically confirms the exact thing I was saying, where double tops do not end big macro trends. So of course, yes, there was a bear market within the stock market. This was the 2008 sell-off, and obviously it was brutal for stocks. But after that, it recovered, and look how high it ended up going. So that could confirm, if Bitcoin is following this scenario, we had a big run up to 66,000, then we had a sell-off in May of this year, then we corrected and we went back up. We had a slightly higher high at $69,000, and we started to move down. So maybe after this move down is finished, we get a huge quick recovery and indeed a massive move to the upside. And again, because this bull run so far has been different in the sense that we didn't get a blow off, but instead we got a double top, it's probably going to mean that the bear market cycle is going to be very different, and not a 2018 style bear market where it just goes straight down for like 2 years and drops by 90% or more for altcoins. It's more likely that we do get, a sell-off that we've been seeing, but after that sell-off is done, it recovers pretty quickly. It doesn't take 2 years to recover. It recovers pretty quickly, and then it sets new all-time highs and maybe continues to that blow off top somewhere towards next year, or maybe even longer. Okay, we are getting to a point where there is institutional investment. Obviously, we're heading into the new year, so there's going to be a lot of allocations being made at the beginning of the year for funds that are going to allocate more money to crypto, to Bitcoin, because they maybe missed out this year, or they were early to it, or they only tested it with a little bit, but seeing this year's performance obviously makes them, want to allocate more, and maybe it took them time to prepare, or a lot of them said, hey, we're going to hold off until the new year, and we're going to allocate a certain percentage to Bitcoin and digital assets. So one good thing is, if this is the fractal that the Bitcoin market is copying, and thus the crypto market, because what Bitcoin does, basically altcoins do, it basically would mean that there is potential for further downside where we could retest the May lows. Imagine this is the May lows. We could retest that or slightly below it before moving higher. That is a possibility. So that would mean that it is still possible that Bitcoin could retest that $28,000 level, maybe even a little bit below it on a quick sell-off at some point to complete the double top sell-off pattern, and then quickly start the reverse and start to move higher back to all-time highs and new highs and beyond, potentially within a matter of a few months. So that is something that I'm looking at. Again, we have to look at how this is going to play out. There's multiple scenarios, multiple possibilities, lengthening cycle, maybe there's S&P 500 pattern that could play out. So all we have to do now is basically just continue to monitor it. The bull market was different so far until this point. We had not had a blow off top, so that's likely the bear market, the sell-off, the decline, whatever you want to call it, is going to be less severe than 2018, and it is probably going to recover quickly. So I am still bullish on Bitcoin and crypto as a macro asset. I think it's going to get much bigger over the coming years. So the trick is, as always, to not overextend. Do not risk what you can't afford to lose, and have a long-term investment plan. So whatever happens in the next 6 to 12 months, that it's not going to be a huge deal, that it doesn't affect you financially, in the sense that it's not going to affect your retirement account or the bills that you need to pay or your rent or your mortgage payment or anything like that. Obviously, you want to be responsible with it. But in the long term, what is setting up now, I think over the coming years, it's going to go much, much higher, which means the potential to stay dedicated and committed to following this asset class and looking for good opportunities, I think it's one of the best risk-reward bets at this point in time still. So hopefully you did enjoy this update. It was a little bit of a lengthy one, but it is my last update here on the channel for 2021. So I want to wish you very happy holidays. I want to wish you a happy new year going into 2022. I wish you all happy, healthy, prosperous new year with lots of profits. We learn from our mistakes, we keep going forward, and we make sure that every year we do better than the year before. Don't compare yourself to others, okay? That's only going to make yourself miserable. Just compare yourself to yourself a year ago, and just make sure you keep improving based on where you were a year ago. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Smash the like button if you haven't done so already, and I will see you on the 1st of January for the monthly crypto update in the new year.